Hello, everyone. I'm Captain Logan, and look, it's Austin, the Day Ghost.
Yeah, and I'm at my mom's, which is where my dog normally is, but they're gone. So I could have brought my dog up to be like, look, and we got our super pets.
You know what? I wish I'd thought of that. I could have done that too. But then we would have had this whole awkward place where I would have had to just like take a break and pause everything and put the dog away.
No, you could have
Because
just put the dog in front of the camera and then we go away.
oh, sure, yeah,
Yeah,
that's probably a better video than what this will be. I imagine.
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, my dogs aren't used to being in the bunker. I don't know if they've ever been down here. So if I brought them down, they'd be like, whichever one I brought down. We have Chihuahua mixes, and but I have I have a black Chihuahua who has this real kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Like distinct kind of look about him. Like he looks like he could be a Bat Hound or something, just very very small.
Oh, he's Batmite's hound.
Yeah, but like he's just got this real no nonsense sort of expression, and you put him on camera and he'd just be like, stalwart. It'd be great. No, we should have done that.
Yeah, no, we should have. Let's just talk about our own pets.
Yeah, let's do that for the entire time. Anyway, welcome everybody. Thanks a lot for joining us for tonight's How We Felt About. Like we did with Thor: Love and Thunder, we will make this primarily a How We Felt About, and then if people want to ask us about spoilers, we're happy to do some of that as well. So I didn't put spoiler cast in the title because once again I only saw this the one time and it's not sticking with me the best. I saw this yesterday and it's already kind of seeping out of my brain. So hopefully a lot of it starts to come back to me as we discuss a little bit. Austin, so anyway, welcome. Thanks a lot for being here. If you're watching live, thanks for watching this after the fact. If you're doing that, as always, if you want to make sure that we discuss any particular aspect of this movie, you can leave a super chat in any dollar amount. Don't feel like you have to do that. Of course, we'll look at some regular comments as well, and you can help us direct the conversation if you saw this or even if you didn't. I assume that some people are probably here just to see how insanely bad this movie might be or otherwise. This is one that I was gonna skip. I had no interest in this. The advertising campaign for this really bothered me. I didn't want to see a DC cartoon movie that wished it was Illumination or was trying to look like an Illumination film. This looked like a League of what's that series they have?
Secret Life of Pets?
Secret Life of Pets. Yeah, it was like Secret Life of Super Pets is how they advertised this movie. And of course, as I always say, trailers aren't there to tell you what the movie actually is going to be. They're there to try to get you to go see the thing, and sometimes they play dirty pool with you. Sometimes they'll take all the scenes that makes it look like a particular kind of movie to get a particular audience or like the largest amount of people to go see a thing, to be, as accessible as possible. And then you go see it and you're like, well, that's not exactly what you advertised. And sometimes for the better, and very often for the worst. And we'll talk about this here in a second and decide which of those this one ended up being. But anyway, Austin didn't want to go. There's always that outside chance that it's not going to be what I thought it was. There's also the possibility of a Pixels where it doesn't look the best and then you go and it's even worse somehow. And then I made the mistake on a Captain Logan show of going, well, if I get enough asks for this or a few super chats about it, I'll feel the need to go. So like if you really care, and a few people, probably not even enough to really pay for the movie ticket, but I got enough interest, I went, okay, all right, I'll go. And this wasn't like Love and Thunder where I got curious. I was never curious about this movie. But I finally went, okay, I'll go, and I was hoping that it would be innocuous enough that I wouldn't resent myself for bringing my 4-year-old. I went ahead and brought Mikey to see this movie, and I will say he had a good time. But anyway, Austin, thanks for going and doing this with me. I assume you went hoping it was the worst thing you saw this year, or that you would want to, like, pull your own brain out through your sockets seeing this.
So I went in, like, almost blind. Like, I didn't see any of the trailers. I just knew everybody was... No, so everybody was saying, oh, it looks terrible.
Yeah.
And then I went to see Raiders of the Lost Ark in the theater a few weeks back, and they played like a 5-second clip of it where they have like the super speed turtle run into a wall and go, I can go really fast, but I can't see beep. And I was like, there's no way that's in this kid's movie. And then all I could think of was that Thor bit where like where they have like the naked Thor and it's censored in the trailer. And I was like, wait a minute, like, is there any chance that's not censored in this movie? Like, I kind of need to know now.
Yeah, and it is.
And yeah,
and it is in both cases. It is.
Well, more than two cases. This movie's weirdly vulgar in that way. Not that we're listening.
I know, and we'll talk about that. There's a whole "who is this for" kind of question with this.
Yeah.
But when I said both, I just mean Love and Thunder censored their thing.
Oh, yeah.
And this movie censored the thing you're talking about.
Well, and that it's not censored in the movie for Thor.
Oh, I thought it was. I thought they did the same. Did they just shoot it in a different place?
No, it's the same shot. It's just like Days of Future Past, where you can see it.
Oh, okay. I guess I'm remembering that wrong. This is not important or this is totally neither here nor there.
How often do you get to hear this channel talk about Chris Hemsworth's butt?
Yeah, that's true. No, I thought it was frontal and centered. I guess I'm remembering it wrong. I thought
No, it was that like back shot where it was they censored.
Oh, and I thought in the trailer what they censored was like a side view thing, and then it was blurred. But I guess not.
Yeah.
This just reminded me of the Black Label Batman thing, by the way, where like that happens and then we've got to spend 20 minutes, talking about Bruce Wayne's crotch.
Mm-hmm. Which luckily was censored from this movie too.
But this is by and large a PG. Should have been G, but whatever.
Well, G, like I don't even know. Do we make G movies anymore?
Sorry, what I mean is, when I say it should have been G, I mean they should have made it where it could have gotten that rating. It's really weird that they didn't. And
I agree. I don't know if we make G movies anymore.
Because I feel now and again,
yeah,
that will happen. But the point I'm not talking about the rating system. The point I'm trying to make is, besides some of the stuff Austin's talking about and a couple of other jokes here and there, this is a pretty innocent sort of movie for really little kids. So I just want to apologize for the conversation that we just had for the last minute and a half in reviewing this family-friendly film.
No, that's the weird part about this in terms of like who is this for, is that it is very much like a younger kid's movie, but you have the like Flash Turtle character, and almost every line out of that character is some sort of like weird adult joke, which I mean goes over kids' heads and all, and I'm not exactly a prude on that stuff, but it's just kind of weird how much they censor it.
Yeah.
Like I'm very much of the mindset of like, don't have like a bleep in your movie. Like if you have to bleep something, change the line. Like I don't know. That's just always been me. Like it takes me out of a movie when you have that kind of censorship in it.
I don't like the sort of precedent that sets either. I haven't seen that really in cartoon movies. Having said that, I don't know that it's going to affect anything. Like, I don't know that anybody's seeing this and that it's going to be popular enough that suddenly that catches on. Now, there might be some Illumination things and stuff that movies that have done that, and I'm just not aware of it because I actively don't watch their movies. I went to the first Minions for some reason, and, like, never again. And that came out this weekend too. I think, or was that already out?
That was a few weeks ago.
A few weeks ago, okay. But yeah, those are both in the theater right now.
Yeah, that was like a week or two after Thor, I think.
Again, this was at least advertised like, oh, you like those like least common denominator humor kinds of Illumination movies. You should, like the Grinch and the Despicable Me and that stuff. Come see this. And I guess I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but this was a lot less that way than I expected it to be.
Because that's what everybody told me. It was the it was like a bad Illumination movie, but to me it was more of it's a blend of things, right? So there is Illumination in it certainly, but it
doesn't get anything like as crass as some of those that I've seen, or the way that those are advertised, and
we don't try to bring in the
like
minion thing.
Say again.
And we don't try to do the minion thing. Like Illumination gets the Seuss movie, or I think they just do. No, they did Lorax and Grinch, and with the Lorax they make all of the like woodland animals into minions, and like we don't try to do anything like that.
You
Character
could,
wise, it reminds me of something like Over the Hedge.
yeah, you could almost make an argument, and I don't want to give away too much. Not that I think anybody's going to care that much about spoilers with this, but just for the format, we'll just keep it uniform. We're not going to do spoilers yet. There is a thing with an army of guinea pigs that had the potential to go there.
Yeah, and I mean, I wasn't really thinking about it from that perspective because my immediate thought is, oh, like that's what we're going with the villains. Like, here's this other cool idea you could have done with your like kids animal movie.
Yeah.
But we'll get there later when we talk about that stuff. Character wise, I was thinking more so of like DreamWorks and Pixar, but obviously done worse. But that kind of like you have your quirky, you bring in like SNL or whoever comedians to play your little like comedic characters, or even the Lego movies too. We have like your little team of different comedians.
Although I would argue that for the most part with the Lego movies, they tend to do, in my opinion anyway, and I mean, like, I like those. I think that's more than a step above this. Even the worst of them, even like Ninjago, which is just okay, I still think is a few notches above something like this. And even in the voice acting department, like, I think those movies, even though it might be nice if they would branch out like Pixar at least used to do, maybe they still do, and get just whoever's right for the role. When they get celebrities, or when they got celebrities anyway, because those, at least at the moment, aren't being made anymore because Warner's lost the license, they tend to still go for people that it seems to be right for the role, and they give good performances, and you're not wishing it went to somebody else. And this does have that kind of Illumination thing where it's like, I don't know, you had this whole pool of talented voice actors you could have gone with, and you just went with whoever would sell tickets.
See, and this might just be because I know those guys like a little bit more than you do, like outside of the Lego movies and Spider-Verse. But for me, it's very much, and I do think that everybody does a good job in those movies. But I've always seen it more as just they have like a well of like different people that they kind of like, and they just kind of pick from that and go, okay, you're this character because that would be funny. You're this character that would be funny.
That's fair, but like,
but it does work better.
But like Pratt got the Lego movie before he was really known.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, that's maybe. I'm thinking more so of your expanded roster as opposed to just the lead.
Okay,
so
fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, well, I digress. Austin, why don't you give us a real brief synopsis of this movie? That shouldn't take long, and then we'll do our sign flips. Go ahead.
Super Pets is a movie about a super dog, and then other animals get powers. And then it's Spy Kids, but with animals, where we take away the heroes, and then the animals have to go get them.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
That's the movie.
So the dog is Crypto the super dog. There are two super pets that you've ever heard of before. Everybody else is made up, which is one of the things that I was kind of irritated about with the way this movie was coming together. I was kind of disappointed with that because I felt like this was a property that you could have had a lot of fun with and made a really good kids movie out of. Crypto the Super Dog got a cartoon, and I've heard that it's pretty good for kids. I've never actually sat down and watched that, but like, there's fun material to be mined with the Legion of Super Pets. By the way, when it's back in the day in Silver Age of Comics, it's Legion of Super Pets. I assume that we changed it just because it's DC and Justice League, and people have heard of League. And
well, it's weird that DC is actually in the title. Like, it's not like, DC's League of Super Pets. Like, it is just DC League of Super Pets.
Yeah. It's like they don't have confidence enough in that as a brand name that they have to put DC in the title. Like that will get more people to see it somehow. Say, like, more credibility or something. Like, why wouldn't you just call it, like, Crypto the Super Dog, and the Super Pets, or something? I don't know, but like,
well, and the title of the first Avengers isn't actually Marvel's Avengers,
right,
even though that's obviously like how it was billed. So it's just weird that they did actually put DC into the title,
and it's the first thing they've done that way, and it's this kids movie, which is one of the many things that makes it feel like a direct-to-video or direct-to-streaming movie.
Yeah, because they do all those, like, what's the one? Isn't there the one where it's like the all-female team or something, and it's like DC? like Superwoman. I don't remember what it's called exactly. But isn't there a thing like that where they take like Wonder Woman and Supergirl and all of those characters?
I'm not
Some
sure what you're
straight.
talking about.
No,
There's
am I making this up? Is
there's
this some
DC
Mandela
superhero
effect?
girls.
Oh, I'm probably thinking of
That might
that.
be what you're thinking about.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, like that kind of a thing.
that's aimed at little kids.
Mhm.
But yeah. But yeah, so it's I'll just go slightly deeper for a second and say it's Crypto the Super Dog, and he's kind of Superman's straight up sidekick, and he is upset that Superman is going to marry Lois Lane and isn't spending enough time with him, and he's afraid that he is like not his best friend anymore, because he's, you know, dog's supposed to be man's best friend, you know, whatever, that whole thing, and then he kind of learns what a dog's purpose is. And I didn't mean to say it like that because there was a movie a few years ago called A Dog's Purpose.
I would much rather be talking about a dog's purpose. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
And then he needs to get a bunch of newly, conveniently superpowered dog friends and pet friends in order to realize like his place in life, and then his owner still cares about him. And he has kind of a paralleling character arc with the antagonist, who, somewhat hilariously, I like this, is a guinea pig who... like, I don't love this character, but I like this idea, is a guinea pig that was experimented on by Lex Luthor, and like Crypto, thinks that her owner loves her and wants to make her his sidekick, and of course that's Lex Luthor, so that's not going to be the case, and that's kind of a fun mirror thing that they do with this movie. But anyway, let's go ahead and do sign flips. Give me a best thing, worst thing, Austin, and then flip your sign.
Oh God, I don't even know where to go for either, to be honest.
What was your overall experience watching this movie?
I was honestly just kind of bored. Like it was just like, this isn't made for me. Like I'm sure kids will like this if they watch it, but you know, at the end of the day, I'm past its age. God, what? I think this might
going to this by yourself, where you're like, man, I wish I brought a kid.
No, there is definitely like an awkwardness of having to walk up and hand the ticket over and be like, you know, just one for Super Pets. Especially because like I need a shave and a haircut, so I'm all scraggly looking, and it was not a good.
We went up to the ticket taker guy. It's a guy that I've seen at the theater a bunch of times, and he always very loudly calls out the movie you're going to see, which I never understand. It's like, why does anybody like why do you need to tell me? First of all, why does anybody care? Like, why are you saying, like, announcing it to everyone? Here's the movie these people are going to, and then why do you have to tell me the movie I'm going to? You know what I mean? Like, I know. He's like, oh, League of Super Pets! That's in House 13! I'm like, you could have just said House 13, and like even that I could read, but, you know, like, maybe I missed it. You know, it's nice of you to tell me that. Anyway, I digress.
No, if that were me, it would be like, you know, baseball cap, jacket on, walk up, and I'm like, here's my ticket.
You're
like,
Raphael from the
League of
movie.
Super Pets, and it's like, yeah, okay, just give me the ticket, please. Move in.
You got that trench coat that Raphael's got in the 1990 Ninja Turtle movie, where you're just like, I'm going to see a movie.
That's exactly what Raphael was going to see.
No, I believe it was Critters 3 or something.
No.
Anyway, so you were just kind of bored.
Yeah, it was just, I don't know. It was very little moments of being perked up. I laughed really hard at the most inappropriate time in this movie, which is a spoiler thing. Yeah, it's a thing I do often for movies I don't like, but I guess I don't know. I think some of the acting was okay. Like I thought John Krasinski as Superman was fine. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll give it to him because I can't think of anything offhand. Worst thing I'll give to that bleeping thing I said earlier, because that's just annoying. Don't do that.
Okay, so you're flipping red.
Yeah, but not like I feel nothing either way. Like this isn't made for me. It's whatever.
is this giving it even too much credit? I had a little bit of a Clifford thing with this, where like
Oh, interesting. I assumed you hated this movie.
no, I did not hate this movie. I kind of I had a similar experience to you, and found myself disappointed in a way that I didn't think was possible. So like I have to give it more credit to the movie because I expected to be appalled by this, and just based on advertising, and this is another one of those advertising campaigns that has where I had to relearn once again that you can't judge a movie by the trailers. And like I know that, and I've had this with lots of things, where usually the rule is if I think I'm going to absolutely hate a thing, or I'm afraid that I will, my standards are so on the floor that I'll leave finding something I latched onto that I really appreciated about it, and then I'll give a way more positive review than you'd expect that I would, even if I don't flip my sign green, or even if it didn't turn me around on it. But this I didn't see how that was likely. I mean, it was like maybe in my mind, maybe like a 2% chance of that, because I thought it would be surprising if all of the like crass stuff and just the things that aren't to my taste with modern kids movies were in the trailer. And Austin, it was kind of like that. There's maybe 3 or 4 things here and there that weren't in the trailers where I was kind of eye rolling and like, okay, we're going to modern least common denominator, or kind of meme-ish type humor, but the one kind of potty humor place the movie goes to was in the trailer. It got that out of the way right away. You've got to have your and it wasn't like anything like the grossest I've ever seen about it, where you have to have your obligatory like a dog relieving himself scene, like with the Bat Hound. Like, of course you're gonna have that. But I expect
we get that with Crypto too.
Where I forget.
Well, that's like the whole thing of why he doesn't have his powers until because he ate the kryptonite.
Yeah, they talk about it, but they don't do anything gross with it.
Yeah, that is true. You don't
Which
see
I was
it or
surprised
anything.
by. Like I expected, and again, getting ahead of ourselves, but with that whole thing, I expected a whole scene where we were gonna have to like awkwardly wait for him to pass that. And
Yeah, it is weird that we didn't get anything
glad
like
they
that.
didn't do that. Yeah, it was like way more tasteful about that stuff than I thought it would be, which is why what little crassness is in the movie is a little perplexing that it's there. It's almost like they had a quota and a particular type of it that they were willing to go to.
And it's mainly like sexual, as opposed to like potty humor. At least with the turtle character, there's a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah, but that's just kind of like an out-of-touch old person that's being inappropriate. It's kind of the whole joke with that. And I'm not sure why that archetype is in this movie. But anyway, I have that with some other things as well. But no, I have rarely been as relieved as I was. That's a poor choice of words after what I just talked about. I've rarely been as relieved watching a movie as I was with this, to see just standard formulaic superhero. Because with the advertising, it really made me worried that the thing was just using a DC property in order to make a straight-up Illumination movie, and that it was going to be really sitcomish about it. I thought the whole thing was going to be the superheroes are in the background, and we're going to do all the boring, like, everyday, mundane pet stuff, and that's supposed to be funny. I didn't expect a supervillain. I didn't expect fight scenes. Like, I didn't think it was going to be a superhero movie, and it actually was, and, so, like, that's where my standard is. I appreciated this a great deal more than I thought I would, just because they actually put the effort into it to give it the title of a superhero movie and make it a superhero thing. The bare bones of the plot of this is a fine kids movie thing, both in the character arc that you get for Crypto, which is not handled poorly and is not just lip service, and he actually kind of gradually goes through an arc through the movie. It's pretty standard, but it could have been so much more throwaway. Like I thought the whole thing was likely to be mean-spirited in the way that Teen Titans Go to the Movies was. Like, that's kind of where my barometer is with this. Now that's a more entertaining movie, and the jokes are funnier, a lot of them. But the story with this overall, I guess, is kind of better, just because they put in the effort to tell a story, even if it was a pretty standard one. So like, I appreciated that it was just a superhero movie, and I also appreciated that I wasn't embarrassed or upset with myself for bringing my kid to it. Like, I don't think he's going to remember it past next Thursday. There are a lot of more interesting, more thoughtful, and more fun kids movies that I could show him, even in this genre. But I at least wasn't like kicking myself like, I shouldn't have, I really shouldn't have taken him to this. So that was good. Like, he had a good time, but he wasn't talking about it afterwards.
Yeah, it's kind of, your peak, turn the movie on to shut the kid up for an hour and a half, right?
And that's what I don't like about it. Like, it's real disposable. And after this studio made the Lego movie, the second one's not so great, but like, I feel like their standards for kids movies should be higher than that. And so, based on that, I do feel like I have to give this a red sign flip, but it's not a hard red. Like, for me and my own experience with it, I'm flipping red. But also for it as a kids movie, I just feel like it's like a C minus to a C plus. You know what I mean? Like with this as an assignment.
Yeah. No, it's really interesting the way that we both kind of came to it, just from the point of view of you having seen the trailers and me not having seen it.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's more of what I expected, while you expected something way farther out there than what this is.
Daniel Leva says it's clever. I mean, in places, there's like the occasional joke here and there that I chuckled at, and like I laughed more at this than I did like the last Thor movie. But at the same time, I'm not remembering any of those jokes. Like, I've been racking my brain all day today trying to, like, there were a couple things in the theater where I was like, file that away, because, like, you're going to want to bring that up. That was actually kind of clever. Make sure and mention that. And maybe some things, my memory will be jogged as we talk about this. But right now, not a ton. Not a lot of the individual jokes are coming to me, and and the things that I am remembering are kind of the obvious stuff. Where it does, like, I talked to Connor about this earlier. He was gonna try to be here tonight and ended up not being able to make it. But he said a thing that I agree with, and yet I've gotten kind of too used to, I think, which is he didn't care for the self-referential humor. That he can't go to a superhero comedy without it making fun of all the stuff that superhero things have to play straight in order to be good superhero things.
No, and I have that too. I was going to talk about that.
So he's like, I'm just really sick of like jokes about how silly it is that Superman can wear a pair of glasses and nobody knows that he's Superman, or that like the invisible jet's not really invisible. All of that stuff. And it feels real calculated to me. Like,
it's what you always go to for this stuff.
Yeah, where it's like, well, we don't want to leave out audiences that aren't like real big comic people or haven't seen enough of the movies that do more deep pull stuff. So we gotta make everybody. It's that Star Trek 09 thing, right? It's like, well, people know about the transporters and people know he's dead, Jim, and all of that. So we've got to make sure and put in like the big lines everybody remembers. This kind of has that with superhero stuff, but also. Pardon me, but also, I've just gotten kind of inoculated to that. Like, I don't like that, but I almost have to remind myself. I ignore it now. I see it in so much stuff at this point. But it would be really nice if we could play that kind of stuff straight, even in a comedy like this, because this isn't a straight-up farce. Like, it's obviously really silly and really absurd, but it still has something of an internal logic, and yet there are some places where I have some of the same issues that I did with Teen Titans Go to the Movies, where it's really inconsistent about its own rules. It's like, why not just not have any? Why not make it a straight up farce and make your rules that we don't have rules? Like, it cannot decide whether people real people can ever hear animals talking.
Mhm.
Like that's a rule
Yeah,
that
'cause
it can't abide by. Every now and again, it will show us an animal just barking or making whatever sound it makes, and the human can't hear it. There's other places where it looks like the human is intently paying attention to what the animal is saying.
no, I always think about stuff like that for this kind of a thing where they set up that the people can only hear the animal noise when you have a scene of, Crypto giving a monologue at Superman, but from Superman's perspective, his dog's just barking at him.
Yeah,
Hmm. No, I think about that too.
yeah. Like, could Lex hear the guinea pig? No, not Lex. There's a thing. We'll get to spoilers here in a second. There's a thing with Mercy and the guinea pig at the end, and it's like, can she hear what the guinea pig is saying? It seems like she'd have to,
No, I guess it's
but
just
I don't know.
she can just tell its motivation.
Also, some of the stuff I don't care for with this is just taste issue where I wish we started from a different place. I don't want this is just me, and again, it feels like simultaneously the movie isn't for me, but is also trying to rope me in. You cannot have your cake and eat it too with that. You have to find a way to blend it so that not just there's something there for the adults and there's something there for the kids, but where the whole package can work on different levels, right? If I'm supposed to laugh at, and I still don't think that should be there, but if I'm supposed to laugh at some of the crass stuff the turtle is saying, Austin, I don't know that it should be a universe, a DC universe, where the animals are sentient. I have a real hard time with that as a foundation.
Yeah, no, that's understandable. I mean, uh, like, who is this movie made for ultimately? We have this is a movie that's again aiming at more younger kids, but then you have some of that more crass stuff, which again, a lot of it goes over kids' heads. But when you're getting into like bleeping and stuff, it sets a weird gray area. But then it's also a movie that just assumes that all kids understand and love Superman when they don't really anymore. And no kid's gonna get excited to see or to hear the John Williams theme play. That's only going to be for the adults who are most likely going to be bored in this anyways, and that's not going to be enough to perk somebody up.
It did feel like it was trying to grab me and tug on my heartstrings a little bit as a fan of classic superhero movies and Superman specifically with the opening.
Yeah.
Let's just go ahead and get into spoilers if that's cool with you.
Yeah.
So we're in spoiler territory now. We're both flipping red, but they're not hard sign flips.
Yeah, my response is like a shrug.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. And I probably enjoyed certain things in this a little bit more than you, but like,
sure.
Because I appreciated let me say this real quick too. The effort in it's a little generic compared to some other like really good DC superhero comedies and kids things. Like I could give you a list if you want to show a cool animated kids movie about DC superheroes to your kid. I give you a whole list of things that are just better than this movie. But there are some kind of fun references here and there. Like I thought that it was going to just take an IP and make it a completely other thing. Especially because the only pre-existing characters it went to were Crypto and Ace, and that was it. And so I was like, well, I was surprised to see any references at all. Like Big Belly Burger is the obvious thing on a billboard, but that means they've watched DC's things, and so I sort of appreciate that some of those things are there, and that like Lex is a villain in it and connected to the main villain and stuff like that. Like at least. Somebody looked at a DC thing. At least somebody read a comic somewhere. Like that's kind of nice. Like I appreciate that sort of effort. But I don't think it's not bad enough to like laugh at and enjoy on that level. But it's not good enough to exactly recommend, especially to adults that aren't bringing kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Is kind of where I'm at with it.
Well, and so I mentioned earlier, there's a thing with the villain where we kind of set it up, and my mind goes, okay, but why wouldn't you do this? That's more interesting for what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And part of that's with the Lex guinea pig thing, where my mind immediately went to, instead of having an army of just generic guinea pig things, why wouldn't you try to make like a villain team of like, okay, like you have the Lex animal, and then you can have, I don't know, the Joker animal, and then, maybe, I don't know, Black Manta's animal or whatever. Like, kind of go and do like an evil team there instead of just generic army.
Yeah, because it also has, a weird way, and maybe it's just formula. Maybe it's just, we're so used to this is how we make these movies that for no real rhyme or reason, this is how we did it. But it comes off a little bit like we've got to hold an audience's hand because we're afraid to ever, even with a movie like this, just put pre-existing superheroes up front and tell some kind of a story. So it has to be another team origin story, which is all DC has been making since after Man of Steel for the most part.
You could still keep that, you could even just montage the villain being like, okay, I'm gonna, I've got my evil plan going. I need help with this. I'm gonna go and montage like, oh, I'm picking up the Joker's hyena. I'm picking up Black Manta's manta ray. I don't know, Gorilla Grodd.
But wouldn't it be really funny if Gorilla Grodd had a pet gorilla?
His little chimpanzee, Cheetah's house cat.
Bring in, I wanted to see the cat from Red Lanterns.
Oh, yeah.
Dexter.
Yeah, exactly. That would be fun.
Stuff
And we
like
even
that.
have like a little cat thing here that like shoots stuff out of its tail. Why
Yeah.
isn't that just the Red Lantern cat?
Well, because that's an alien cat. You would have had to tell a totally different story to get it in there.
No, I know, but
it's the same reason, and of course I don't want to rewrite stories, except I think you and I could sit here and come up with 15 more fun premises than this, and comic book premises, yes, but also just premises that would be more fun for a little kid. Like, I feel like
that's what I was thinking more so than, because I don't know anything about the DC Super Pets thing. I was just thinking about like, okay, I'm a little kid. What do I want to see?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. Isn't it more fun? And that's why I'm saying it didn't have to be an origin thing all the way from the start of we have to have pets that are just out there and in a kennel and then give them superpowers. It could still be a team up, putting together the team kind of movie and an origin story in that way. But why couldn't it have just been, like you said, the pets of villains? Why couldn't it have just been the pets of heroes? I mean, like, Superman has a pet, but Batman also already has a pet, and Wonder Woman already has a pet. And what would be really fun about that is some of those just have never really had pets. So you could make up some new characters, and you could really have fun with it. And come up with things that don't feel generic like some of these do.
And then that way too, you don't have just they all show up in their costume in the last scene. You can actually have them in costume throughout the movie. I had that with Ace the Bat Hound when he shows up and he's got like his own bat suit.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, wouldn't it have been more fun if he had that at least for the climax?
Yeah, and I guess it's supposed to be fun because or cool because the pets have all they were because they do the standard like, oh, we're all losers and nobody cares about us kind of plot, and then they all go through their respective character arcs, and then at the end they get to be superheroes. Like that's the payoff. And so when you finally see them suit up at the end, it's like you're being rewarded for that story. But I just feel like for a kid, the fun thing would be the toyetic thing. It'd be like seeing all the pets in their outfits running off and being superheroes.
Yeah, instead of just them being regular pets through all of it, except for Crypto, who gets to have a costume. It's just really a cape, but still.
The world is so absurd. Why don't the heroes just all already have pets?
Yeah, when you're already starting off from the point of view of Superman's like sidekick is a dog and always has been, and it's his best friend, and he's got like a big statue of Superman with a dog next to him.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, go for it.
Why not? Real quick, here's a couple super chats from right at the beginning. Senior Sticks, would Grodd's super pet be a modified giant cat? Well, we just kind of talked about that. I like your idea that it would just be
I like John Kelling in the comments. He says that Gorilla Grodd has a pet human. That would be really funny for a joke where they all have pets and then just a guy named Al walks in and he's like, yeah, I'm technically a pet.
That's a really funny idea.
Hmm. No, it'd be awesome.
You'd have to be classy about it.
Hmm. Yeah, of course.
You know, like you'd want him to be fully clothed and all of that. You
Well,
know,
he could have like a suit, and then instead of a tie, it would be a leash and like a collar.
there's speaking of clothes, like there's flashes of really fun stuff in this. I like that the villain steals a piece of Superman's cape and makes that her costume. I think that's fun.
Yeah, yeah, it's cool, and she's got like the thing that gives the animals powers, like a little symbol.
It's orange kryptonite.
Mhm.
I didn't look up what orange kryptonite has done in the past. I meant to do that. I don't know if it's that where it just gives people random superpowers, but I thought that was kind of fun, kind of funny. Like I don't know if this was intentional, but it's like, oh, okay, so it's just Smallville kryptonite then. Like each individual person gets a completely random superpower for no good reason,
Mhm.
and I like that Lex knows that. And he's oh
Yeah,
I never did best thing worst thing. I'll do that in a second.
that's true. Yeah, you didn't.
I just realized that I flipped my sign and then I never did that. But yeah, I like that Alexis like he goes through a laundry list of just potential powers he'll get, and some of them are like really mundane and not that useful. And I'm like, what if you end up with like I don't know, you make things different colors or something like
Hmm. Yeah, you're just on fire at all times. That's really annoying.
that might
Or he
have
just has wings, like the.
that actually might have been an amusing way to go. I don't want to spend the whole time just talking about better ideas than they had, but like Lex has a plan where he's trying to bring Orange Kryptonite to him, and the Justice League foils him easily, and then the bad guy Lulu, I guess is her name, voiced by Kate McKinnon. She's fine, I guess, and she pulls a piece of it to her, and then she gets superpowers. What if Lex actually managed his plan at least initially and gave himself a superpower and it was just a really pointless one and it didn't help him at all, and so he just threw the orange kryptonite away and then the guinea pig went and got it? Like that might have been fun. Where like I don't know, you can grow hair now or something.
Yeah, that could be pretty funny.
I like the bit where she's she's assuming that Lex actually likes her and cares about her like Superman does Crypto, and she goes, or I can't remember who it is, Crypto or somebody else, says to her, well, look, he doesn't care about you. He experimented on you, and you lost all your hair." And she's like, "Well, so did he." Oh, that was pretty good.
Yeah, yeah, that was pretty good.
Like, there's flashes. There's some good jokes in this movie.
Mm. No,
That's what I
better than,
remembered. Look, I remembered one.
that's better than like 800 jokes of, "Oh, you're just wearing glasses." Um, like Ace the Bat Hound and Crypto's like initial meeting moment is he walks out and it's Crypto with glasses, and Ace is like, "Oh, I'm breaking out of prison," and then Crypto flies up and he comes back down and he's in his costume, and Ace the Bat Hound's like, "Oh, well, like you're clearly just that dog that I just saw," and it's just the joke from Super, but nowhere near as funny. And that movie was made 11 years ago.
And Super was also supposed to be one of those sort of like what if people in the real world ended up with powers or became superheroes or whatever. This
Yeah,
is
it's more
an
fitting of
established
that.
DC universe where it has comic book rules and they're MacGuffins, or sorry, they're gimmies, and you just run with them, right?
Mhm.
Why are the pets more aware about this stuff than the humans? And if they're gonna be that way, why don't you make a joke of that? Right? Like that should have just been a consistent thing where like all the pets or about this one thing smarter than the humans, like for some reason. And I
Yeah,
don't
like
know
animals just have that extra sense. Like dogs can smell that Bruce Wayne and Batman are the same person.
there you go. Yeah, that'd be cool. And then you've got all these self-aware pets or animals that nobody can hear that all know all the superheroes' secret identities. You could have some fun with that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you could easily have fun with that.
My best thing is that it actually turned out to be a superhero movie. That really is my best thing. And my worst thing is the character models. I just hate what everybody looks like in this.
It's not a great looking animation style. The backgrounds and stuff look pretty good, but you're right, like all the characters don't.
I think it's animated fine. It's just everybody's kind of ugly for no good reason.
Mm.
Especially the humans. I mean, like the pets are whatever, I guess. But it's also just it's so standard, and it feels like they're cribbing from another studio's style. And especially if it is going to be an actual superhero movie, I just want it to be stylized in its own way. There's no good reason this couldn't have been 2D animation. And you can say, well, I mean, it's kind of arbitrary anyway, like if you go 2D or 3D. And that's fair, but if it had to be 3D, you could also be kind of stylized with that. But I just had a hard time, this is me personally, what I would have preferred, having sat through this now, and I still didn't really care for the style of it. The animation was better than I thought it would be, certainly. Like, and the way the action scenes are choreographed and stuff, it's more than serviceable. Like, it's fine. But, I don't know. It would have been really cool to have a like stylized, flat 2D thing with these characters, I think.
Well, I was thinking about that. I don't know if you had this trailer before the movie, but the that new Puss in Boots movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I did see
it
that.
seems like we're getting a lot more stylized 3D animation right now, but it doesn't look as good as stylized 2D animation. Like it looks off to me.
I didn't see the movie, and I'm curious about it, and I still might. I thought Bad Guys looked kind of cool.
Oh, okay, yeah, and I saw the poster for that, and I haven't seen it or like any of the trailers or anything.
That
But I heard the movie
stylized-
was good.
Yeah, it looked good. I saw a trailer for that. I had seen a poster, and I was like, "Oh, that's probably another like throwaway, who cares, 3D kind of kids movie." And then I saw one of those trailers that kind of gives away too much, and you can kind of follow the skeleton of the plot. But it's like this heist movie, and it's all these animals that have just been told their whole lives that they're bad guys, so they fall into that. But then someday they get the brilliant notion to like try the hero thing instead. So the premise looked fun, and then it's this stylized thing where it's like frame drops, where it's like at a lower frame rate, and so it looks like it's like somewhere in between standard 3D animation and then looking a little bit like stop motion, even though it's not stop motion. So it kind of has that Lego movie thing, but it doesn't look just like that either. But yeah, like we're trying some things.
Hmm. Even this movie messes around with different animation styles here and there for different scenes.
That's true, and that's nice. But it's not a thing you got to go to the theater for.
No, no, not at all.
Some people are saying that it looks that it looks like a direct to Netflix movie that they at the last minute decided to put in the theater. And I know that's not actually what it is, but do you agree with that? Like do you think it looks direct to video?
I could see just like on the scale of everything, like especially in some of the action where you're kind of like zipping around and whatnot, maybe being a bit too expensive for straight to DVD, especially when you look at something like the DC animated movies. But I don't know, it's not especially like amazing animation either for like a theatrical movie.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's somewhere in the middle.
It's somewhere in the middle.
Cedar Six also said in a super chat, "How long till you estimate live action crypto movie?" I mean, I hope that never happens.
Oh, well, I hope that does happen.
I know
that
you
sounds
do,
awesome.
because you probably want Clifford, the superhero movie.
When this movie ends on them being like, "Oh my God, there's a new villain and there's a giant blue dog," I was like, "Oh, please be the moment that wins me over. We're getting Clifford as the next villain." And then it didn't really.
What did you think of Ace, who will ultimately become Ace the Bat Hound in his characterization? Because he's a from the ground up recreation of that character.
I had to imagine that because
And to be
during the
fair,
movie,
there's different versions of him, and I don't mean to act like I'm an expert of the DC Super Pets or like Legion of Super Pets. I'm not. It's just like some of these characters, or some of them, these two characters that they used in this movie, I've seen in some different things and different versions of them. But like he's a completely different character from anything I've seen before.
I was just surprised that he had powers because I assumed that wasn't something we ever did with him, but I don't know.
I figured they would come up with some kind of excuse for him to not get powers when everybody else did. And
That's what I assumed too.
and they made him indestructible. And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so you're gonna give him one of Krypto's powers. Like you're gonna have Krypto the Superdog and Ace the Bat Hound, who are the pet versions of your Superman and your Batman. And you're gonna have your Batman have one of Superman's powers.
No, Batman's dog is more powerful than he is.
Yeah.
It's really strange.
The scene at the end where Batman decides, screw it, I guess I will have a pet, did not play the way I would have thought that it would. Because I really thought that, and I like the, by the way, the side-by-side flashbacks that they do with them, where like they both have tragic backstories and so they fit together. But I might have thought that he'd just get in a fight and Batman would see that it was indestructible and be like, well, I mean, I'd be kind of crazy not to use this dog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as a shield. He's fighting a kaiju. Yeah, no, exactly. With Ace the Bat Hound, I know he's fine. I'm not a big fan of Kevin Hart, but I thought he was fine in this. He wasn't like overall a really like annoying comedic relief character, and part of it helps that he was playing like the Batman animal. So I thought he was fine. My like big hysterical laugh moment though was when they did his backstory, and we had to stop to do the second act Pixar sad backstory scene where you flash back and like the art style changes. You
There's
have
a
like
song.
you have the song playing, and I was like, oh my god, like this was cliche in like the late 2000s with Pixar.
It was cliche when Toy Story did it.
Yeah, so I laughed really hard when they did that, but I don't know, he was fine.
But the actual backstory, like Call Me a Sap, I was fine with it.
It's not terrible. I mean, it is just kind of like a Toy Story thing of, oh, I had this family that I loved and now they're gone.
I guess I just like that they did kind of have their cake and eat it too, in that they were able to do the pet thing and the superhero thing. So like they made them. This is not what I would do with this material, but they made them pets first, and then we're like, what is the purpose of pets and specifically dogs? And then if we take like that real life idea that like dogs love their owners unconditionally and then give him superpowers, then what would we do with that character? And like I liked him as a leader. I thought that he was actually way more likable than Krypto, which was kind of unfortunate because Krypto is super whiny, and he's like I'm okay with the whole naive thing with him, but ultimately they just kind of play it like I didn't really understand this, that like Ace understands this like universal truth about dogs that Krypto has to learn even though he's a dog.
No, I had that a bit too. Like it's that Superman thing where I hear a lot of people who don't understand Superman go, "Oh, well, you have to make a Superman movie where he learns how to be human," and it's like, no, you don't understand Superman. Like, why does Krypto need to learn like how to smell for things? Like,
yeah.
what?
Well, and you could. I just feel like there's a lot of missed opportunities. You could make it all about him leaning too much on his superpowers, I guess. Where you could be like,
Yeah.
well, you didn't really grow up on Krypton. You were a puppy.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Kal-El was a baby, and so you didn't hone your skills. You didn't hone your senses, and then you go to Earth and you get superpowers, and so you rely on them. You fly everywhere. Why would you ever smell to find anything?
Mm-hmm.
But they don't talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's just, the kind of casualty of being like a younger kids movie is they don't have like some moment that some Superman stuff have done where Superman loses his powers and it's like, oh my god, like this is how people live. Like this is crazy.
But there's no reason you can't be a movie for little kids and still have that kind of
For sure, but I wonder if that
pathos,
was
for lack
maybe
of a
what
better
they were
word.
thinking. Because there does seem with a lot of people to be that it's a kids movie, like just have jokes about it, and that's kind of it.
Okay, but then it starts to look a little bit emotionally manipulative I mean, this movie doesn't have that problem anything like as hard as some other things, but like it starts to look a little bit emotional and manipulative whenever you do try to make the audience feel something about like your superhero, your character with powers losing powers and that kind of thing. Because they do that scene, right? Like he loses powers and oh god, he can be hurt now, and like he's having to do all these things he's never done before. But then we don't really get into it. Like,
no, I think it's just it has that. We're aiming it at kids, and kids will inherently care.
Yeah. But if early Pixar had made this movie, it might have been a thing that kids would love, but we would be praising it for there's like this realism to it.
Oh no, of course.
So what I'm saying is, there's no reason it couldn't have that stuff, and when the bar's been raised so high, it's hard not to long for it a little bit, even if the movie isn't terrible. You know what I mean? Like, it works okay.
No, and I agree. And
everything about this movie is just okay. It's so mediocre.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to give it the excuse of, oh, well, it's a kids movie, so whatever. I'm trying to think of what the creators are thinking, because I do agree that you can have a movie that does it better, but I do wonder if that's what they were thinking.
It probably is.
Yeah, earlier Pixar movie, even like the team, like you have just kind of like, okay, like this is these are like the two characters that have like their little quirks that all the kids will laugh at because they're silly. But then you could have something like, I don't know, Finding Nemo or something. We have like the fish in the tank, where they're also pretty good outside of just being that, even though that is ultimately what they are.
That's a really good point, yeah. Where you still do feel something about at least some of those characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not all of them, of course, but they're
done are just there to be comic relief.
Yeah.
But like, especially Defoe's character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Which I guess the argument there is, well, that's Ace the Bat Hound, but I don't know. I feel like some of the other characters could have gotten a little bit better to do.
Well, and then it starts to look like, well, the only reason that you're supposed to that they make Ace a character you're supposed to feel for is because he's going to be Batman's sidekick, and because he's the only other character that you've ever heard of, or that anybody's heard of. Because little kids won't really know any of this, of course. So part of the reason, I meant to say this earlier, that you really only get Crypto and Ace and then everybody else is made up. And by the way, I wouldn't mind that if those characters were a little bit less generic. And like, I didn't find any of them insanely annoying like I thought I might. The pig a little bit, but she's still kind of just whatever. They make a big joke out of she's never going to pick a name. And that just makes her more generic to me.
Yeah, I had that too when you get the names for all of them. It was like, oh, like all these names suck.
Yeah, they're not good. And I don't know if that's supposed to be the joke, but it didn't really work for me. It just felt like they're leaning into, well, there's too many superhero characters invented already, and we can't think of anything as good as any of those, so why try, I guess. But the main reason that I imagine that they didn't go for more characters that existed already, Austin, is because the original Legion of Super Pets is all Superman-based characters.
Oh, and I didn't realize that.
So it's like Streaky the Super Cat, and I forget the others, but they're all like something the super something.
Okay.
For the most part, and like later on in comics, there's the occasional other animal, like Morrison made up the Bat Cow. I really thought they might do the Bat Cow in this, and all the way in, believe it or not, like this is mainstream continuity. He did that for Batman Incorporated, of all things. There's a Bat Cow, and then Tiny Titans brought in Bat Cow, and Tiny Titans has a bunch of super pets, and they didn't go look at that material.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. It almost, in a way, would make more sense for Marvel to make an animated movie like this, because there's a lot more just like separated animal characters that you can point out to, I guess, instead of having.
And they have their own version of this, which is better. Because they've got Lockjaw and the Pet Avengers, and I've read a little bit of that, and it's weirdly readable. It's pretty cool, and I'm a little surprised that hasn't gotten a TV show yet or anything.
Yeah, because you could do, Spider Ham, Lockjaw,
Yeah.
Howard the Duck, Throg.
Yeah, well, and Frog Thor is one of the pets in that. Like, some things you're mentioning are barely pets.
I'm just thinking of like animal characters,
Lockjaw
which
is
I guess
a
is
pet.
not exactly the same thing.
And I forget all those characters because it's been years since I read that. But I read like half a trade of Lockjaw and the Pet Avengers once, and was like, it's weird how good this is. Like,
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
they should do that.
But yeah, with the characters here, you have, I don't know, pig character, which feels like something out of, what's it, Sing, I think. I think the characters
Yes.
in that are pigs. And then you have the squirrel, which not exactly character-wise, it's almost a reverse of it, but the squirrel reminded me of Over the Hedge. And
Yep.
I don't know, turtle is just lots of animated things think that turtles are funny.
Yeah, and that kind of starts in Finding Nemo, I guess.
Is there? Oh yeah, I was gonna say, is there a turtle in that movie? Duh, yeah.
My
This
father
is
was
one
Mr.
of the big
Turtle.
set pieces.
Yeah, well, and they make a big deal in that about how long turtles can live, and you have that joke in this. And
When there's the turtle, in a way, is kind of like the sloths from Zootopia, where the joke is just look how slow they are.
yeah, and see, a lot of the modern stuff that you're mentioning, I've never seen.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember
No,
the
that's
trailers
fair.
for them, so everything you're mentioning right now, I'm like, oh, yeah, that does look like that archetype, doesn't it?
Yeah, like it feels so much like, okay, like let's just take all of the stuff, and some of it's not even new. Like Over the Hedge is what, like 15 years old at this point. Like,
Well, there's an out of touchness to this movie.
mhm.
It feels
No,
like
that's true.
the way it comes together is a real cynical corporate product. But watching the movie, it doesn't feel so much that way, so much as just it could have been a lot more clever and interesting, if that makes any sense. Like, I feel like there have got to be some creative minds or just minds behind this movie that are a little bit at odds with each other, right? Like, that's the sense I'm getting, is like maybe they got a writer, because you mentioned to me before we started recording that the writer is an old Lego movie guy.
Yeah, what was from the two spin-offs? It was Lego Batman and Lego Ninjago. One of like 6 writers for both of them. But
It watches like somebody got an assignment and they were trying to make it as uncynical and like fun and creative as they were allowed to make it. That's really how it watches to me. It felt like somebody was in a straitjacket with this movie. Like, I'm imagining
Yeah.
a draft he turned in that probably had half the things you and I are suggesting.
yeah,
Or
well,
stuff that like it, we're like, now you gotta reel it in, you can't go that crazy with it.
well, I feel like probably, 1 or 2 rewrites, and maybe not something super interesting, but you could have something like a Big Hero 6 where I'm shrugging still, but it's like, it was okay. Like, it was passable. It was fine.
Well, and after a
Something
lot
like
of years, I
that.
went back to Big Hero 6. I decided that was a wonderful script. But
Oh, interesting.
yeah, the rewind on that, I think I gave it a 4 ultimately, or maybe a 3.5. I can't
Really?
remember. Yeah, I was shocked that I did that. Yeah.
That's shocking, yeah.
I had a whole experience with that on writing it that I never had just watching it. Those are different experiences, like when you get real in depth and nitty gritty with the things. Sometimes I don't expect that to happen with this.
Yeah, you never know. Maybe.
No, I'm pretty sure I know. So I have real quick, I saw John Kelling was listing out all the characters in Pet Avengers. Lockjaw. Oh, I forgot Lockheed was in that. Throg.
Oh, yeah, Lockheed.
Miss Lion. That's right. And Falcon's pet, Falcon Redwing. I forgot about that too. Daniel, it was only you guys would talk about the super pets this much. Well, I'm just long-winded.
Yeah. Cap was like, oh, this will be really short. And I was like, no, this will be at least an hour.
It probably should have been. My apologies. We can just quit right now.
No,
but
it's okay.
There's certainly some details that we haven't gotten into that we might want to bring up. One thing there's some certainly contrived stuff with this. in like convenient timing and stuff that is really easy to just dismiss because, again, like you said, it's a kids movie, but sometimes it's like, I don't know, thoughtless about it, so it loses credibility with me. But then, more than that, you've got places where we have to be really contrived in order to just make I guess a moment happen or something. Like, I don't really get why Ace isn't immediately on board to go help rescue Superman when the rest of his friends all want to, and they all just got superpowers, and he's got the least to lose because he's invulnerable now. Like if his whole reasoning was just, look, they're not ready, I'm afraid they're going to get hurt, but it really isn't that, because he agrees to do it because of the blackmail thing, and he's supposed to be like he's a good leader, and he's responsible, and he's the most altruistic. But he's the one of them that doesn't want to go save Superman. And the only reason he agrees is because Crypto is going to tell all the pets that the lie he told them about, and I thought this was kind of funny, the lie about the farm upstate that they're all going to go to. I like that line. That doesn't sound ominous at all. And they call it an animal farm and all of that. That's not actually real. And then they make a deal, and Crypto says, look, I'll take you to the farm in Smallville at the end of this, and you can all live there. He's got no permission from the Kents if they're still alive, or Superman, or anything. He's just like, I'll take you there, it'll be fine. That whole thing seemed really convoluted to me.
Yeah, part of me is glad that it isn't the full, like, 2000s cliche of, again, going back to Over the Hedge. I never thought I'd talk about this movie that much, but he could have been the Bruce Willis character in that, where he's, like, lying to everybody, and then you have to have, like, the big dramatic, like, oh, everybody figures out he was lying, and now everybody hates him, and then he's got to kind of go off and be sad for one scene and then come back.
No, that's true. The payoff for that is better. Because you get to the end and they just all get to be pets with different superheroes. And I like that they have to, like, find their confidence and their purpose and no longer see themselves as losers, and then they get to get with a member of the Justice League. And I also like that I wasn't, like, some of them are maybe cheating a little bit, but I wasn't immediately thinking, like, this is the one that goes with this superhero. And then they just pair off at the end.
Yeah, it's weird because initially it sets up like, oh, well, you know, this is, I mean, obviously you already start with this is Superman's dog, but then you get, you know, this is Batman's dog, this is the Flash's turtle, and then Wonder Woman and there's a Green Lantern, I think it's the squirrel. They're so far disconnected that it made me go, oh, like, that's weird that the other ones are so specifically like those heroes, then these two just aren't.
It's also weird because, well, in Ace, you would know immediately because his name is Ace, like, if you're already familiar with that. But even a little kid that's thinking might be like, well, obviously he's going to go with Batman. He's got the ears. Like, he's got pointed ears.
He's, like, kind of gruffer.
Yeah, and the tragic backstory and all of that. But then what's weirder about it, so I was praising it for this, but now I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, I don't know, because the pig seems to just go with Wonder Woman because she's
the girl.
The girl, and, like, you have another female, but she's elderly, right? And then
when she's more specifically the Flash, so there's less of that.
Other two don't have powers that go with anybody. Like, I think even if all the powers squarely went with somebody, I wouldn't have thought, oh, they're all going to pair off at the end, because the Justice League gets taken out real quick, and we're not really dealing with them. That's what I liked about it, is that because they're just regular pets, I'm not really thinking, oh yeah, okay, they're all going to pair off at the end. And I should have been, but I wasn't, so I thought that was kind of neat. But then you get to the end, and the pig goes with Wonder Woman, but her power would put her with, like, the Atom or something.
Yeah.
And then
he was too obscure to be in this movie.
And then the squirrel, yeah, but why give them powers that, maybe you could do this with anything. Maybe, like, there's so many different DC superheroes that I can't come up with a power that would immediately go with somebody you've heard of. I don't know, but like, okay, you gave the squirrel lightning powers, but you gave him to a Green Lantern. When like that could have been Black Lightning. That
Well,
could
and
have
then he
been
comes back and he has a Green Lantern ring
yeah,
at the end. So he also has Green Lantern powers at the end, but on top of that has electric powers just naturally.
yeah. Like this team is
Very
way
strange.
overpowered, and even before that happens, that's why Crypto has to lose his powers through most of the movie. We have to go to that old chestnut.
Yeah, which immediately I went, oh, like we don't know how to write Superman and things. Like even Justice League
Yep.
had this where nobody knows how to do a team movie where Superman can't just come in and win.
So even with the Super Pets movie, you have to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's crazy. Like we have decades and decades of source material, but nobody in Hollywood knows how to do a team that has a Superman character on it without just taking them out.
I mean, do you think we would have needed a bigger threat, like a more powerful threat?
Well, and that's where they should have gone to my idea of the villain team, and you could have
Yeah.
done like a like I said, where you kind of collect all of them. You could have done like a parody of the Suicide Squad scene where it's like, oh, this is this person, this is that person, you know.
Yeah, it would have been really cool to have a pet Legion of Doom. Like I didn't
Yeah,
have that
exactly.
thought, but I'm totally with you on it.
Well, especially because like all of the movies are so afraid to do that kind of a thing for some reason. Like we never got the Masters of Evil for the Avengers. Who even knows what's going to happen with the Justice League? So who knows if we'll ever get a Legion of Doom with them? But it's just yeah, you could have done it for this like little kids movie.
Yeah, and we even set that up in Whedon's version with the after
Uh,
credit scene, the whole like with Lex, we should make a league of our
oh
own. Like they even
yes,
set that up.
yeah. No, I immediately my mind went to Avengers. That's why I was
Oh,
wait.
I'm sorry, I'm
What?
talking about with
Yeah,
Justice League, but yeah,
no, it's yeah, no, that is true.
um, it's it's also a little bit perplexing to me that we went well we've got to try to at least sell the movie, and you're absolutely right that like a lot of things about the movie look like we're looking at other houses and trying to find the magic formula for kids movies, when like I said with the Lego movies they've had success before, and even though it's not Legos they could have still use some of the lessons they learned from those. Those movies have lots and lots of little one-dimensional characters that get like a moment that are really funny to people, and
Yeah,
this was
Justice League's like that.
yeah, this
That's
was an
why you
opportunity to do that again. Like Lego Batman movie is that in spades. Like
yeah.
why don't we do that with this?
Yeah, no, that's why you like for that kind of a thing. That's why I think their casting of celebrities works really well because yeah, you get Superman and like Green Lantern, for example, but it's not really playing on the joke of Superman and Green Lantern. It's playing on, oh, look, it's the guys from 21 Jump Street, and they're doing their kind of shtick as Superman and Green Lantern. So there's just kind of like an inherent in that you just kind of go like, oh, okay, like this character's on screen for like a second, but I get it.
Well, it's like immediately those movies were, especially the first two, the Lego movie and Lego Batman movie, it felt like they could be looser and kind of crazier because it's toys, and we immediately have excuse to break fourth wall, and not even really break fourth wall, but like make references to our properties like they're properties because these are plastic toys that are based on these things, and this movie learned the wrong lesson from that, where it's like, oh,
Mhm.
people think that's funny, so even though it's completely nonsensical and doesn't fit in the context of this at all, we're still going to do that. And it doesn't do it a ton, but there are places where there's these little weird fourth wall breaks that just don't make any sense in the context of the movie. Like at the end, Keanu Reeves' Batman is, and people were excited about that. They thought it was really funny casting. He's just not used enough. I kind of thought that was going to happen. So he's funny enough in the couple of scenes he's in, but he's barely there. And he is going down a list of characters because again, we got to do the like self-aware humor thing, right? So he's like, "Oh, I only work alone." except for Robin and Alfred. And then he goes down this whole list, and we go to action, and then we jump back to him, and the next thing he's still doing his list, and the next thing he says is whoever Morgan Freeman played, and I'm like, I don't understand that joke. Well, like, I don't mean to overthink it, but the joke doesn't make sense.
So that played, I guess there was like another preview thing I saw, which is in front of the Batman, they played the scene where Batman and Ace the Bat Hound are like, side by side, and they're talking about like how dark they are.
Yeah.
And it was like an alternate cut where it then has that moment where he does like the list part. And I thought it was really funny, not because that joke's like inherently funny, but because they don't trust that the audience knows who that character is. So they just went,
Lucius Fox?
It's Morgan Freeman. You remember that Morgan Freeman was in Batman.
Yeah, it's like Batman would, like, for the sake of argument, forget that it's weird that you would be referencing a Batman movie inside of a thing that has Batman in it. Batman would know who Morgan Freeman played.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but like, I think it's just for the audience because they go, do people remember what his name is? I don't know. I just say Morgan Freeman. With Batman, though, with Keanu Reeves, I think for something like the Lego movie where you introduce, like you said, like these one-off characters, and in the Lego Batman movie, especially with the villains, they're typically just one-note jokes, and they get like 3 lines, and there's their one-note joke that they come in and they do it. Like Bane, for example, the only real joke with him is just that it's a parody of the Rise's voice.
And that's consistent with Lego humor across the board, which is part of why it works, because the video games do exactly the same thing.
Yeah, so like that kind of a thing makes sense for that. I think Batman has that in this movie, but he gets to talk too much, so it's a one-note joke that keeps going, and it's like, okay, I get it. Like, he's got a sad backstory, and that's the only joke you can think of for this character. Don't stop giving him lines.
Yeah, and like it worked with Spider-Man Noir in Spider-Verse.
Which I haven't seen.
It's kind of the same thing as that. Oh, that's true. Yeah, because you can't look at that animation. Mm-hmm. But they were careful to limit how much he was speaking, and I said that his Batman doesn't get enough to do. We don't get to hear him enough. But I think I agree with you also that it's still too much for the one joke.
I agree that he doesn't get enough to do to actually have like an impression of Keanu Reeves playing Batman, but it's also they don't give him enough for what he has to stretch. Like what he has to do is stretched out too far that it feels like too much for the one joke they have.
Real quick, Super Billy put in a super chat a little while ago when I was talking about Pet Avengers. Other members of the team include Detective Chimp, Taki Tawny, Hoppy the Marvel Bunny, Terrific What's-It, Flexi the Plastic Bird. Oh yeah, Flexi the Plastic Bird. Thanks, Wikipedia.
It's the writer of the Lego Batman movie for the villain scenes. I should also mention,
most of the comments are just people
chat
saying what animals the hero should have ended up getting. I'm sorry, what were you saying?
Well, in the chat I noticed John Kelling says that there is a Green Lantern that is a squirrel in the comics.
I was going to mention that.
RJ Godzilla says that they think that the pig thing with Wonder Woman's a reference to an Unlimited episode, which I've never seen any of that show. So,
and I either haven't seen that episode or I don't remember it right off. So,
but I guess Cersei turns Wonder Woman into a pig in that show, so they think that that's a reference to that, which might be a stretch. I don't know.
Yeah, because there's not a lot of real deep pull stuff that I noticed in this. So, I mean, I was crediting these guys for seeming to actually have a little bit of reverence for DC, but they either don't know it well enough where I would be surprised if they knew that, or...
This is a movie that had to go, Morgan
intentionally.
Freeman.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's hard to tell.
Hey, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Why would a pig be in an animal shelter?
I had that exact thought too, where they were like, "Oh, somebody's gonna come adopt us." Who adopts a pig and a squirrel?
And how long is? Sorry if this offends anybody's sensibilities, but how long is the pig at the adoption agency before somebody finally just throws their hand in the air and goes and makes bacon. I don't understand.
No, I also had that thought. And the squirrel looks like it has rabies, so I don't know why that hasn't been put down. It's all disheveled looking.
Yeah, it's got the crazy eyes.
Yeah.
And also, with the whole Animal Farm thing, she's the only one that should be worried.
Well, no, she's happy because she gets to take over. That was a joke that I called like early on and went, "Oh, that's kind of funny." Oh, they name dropped it. Okay, never mind. Because I was like,
I was sort of okay with a name drop with that.
it's not like a bad joke. It was just I had that initial like, "Oh, they're making an Animal Farm joke." That's kind of, oh, okay, you spelled it out. Okay.
No, that's fair. Like I said,
But
my
I can also
standards ain't
understand
high,
like, no, of course, and that was just. I'm sure that went over a lot of people's heads until they said it. It was just initially I went, "Oh, are they making an Animal Farm?" Oh yeah. Okay.
This being Warner Brothers, I was half expecting with the guinea pig building an apparatus in her cage to get the kryptonite. I was half expecting a peek of the brain joke.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
Because immediately I was like, "Oh, we're doing peeking in the brain."
Well, and because she has the power to like move things like telepathically, I'm surprised they didn't have her like build a Lex suit when she broke out.
Yeah, or once Lex turns on her at the end, like she steals one of his suits and is like, "Okay, you suck. I'm gonna be the new Lex Luthor or something."
Hmm. Yeah, for sure.
It's been really hard with this review not to just go to here's what would have made this kind of more fun. Like that's been
Yeah.
the whole thing. Is just here's all your this is just missed opportunities. The review, like
Hmm. Yeah,
it's not
exactly.
terrible. It's just it's a first draft. I feel like we could help you make it better. Like
Hmm. No, it's just it's a movie to shut your kids up for a little bit. And you can have like a good kids movie that you can rip to pieces. Like the first Toy Story movie I think is really good, but like there's a million like logic inconsistencies with that movie that you can rip it apart if you put like any thought into it.
yeah,
But it's like you like the characters and you kind of get into it and you're more willing to give it things.
well, yeah, and like maybe speaking of that, like maybe this should be a gimme, but I was having such a hard time getting on board with the idea of just like I said, already sentient animals, where I'm like, world where so many regular human beings are getting superpowers, like this kind of thing should be happening more often, and you should have more animals that, like the guinea pig, are like brilliant and sadistic and figure out how to do crazy stuff, to have like evil master plans and stuff like that.
Hmm. Well, yeah,
More often
because
than you do, and also like you already had a built-in thing where she was being experimented on, so she could get her initial sentience from that. There's not even any real reason that any of these animals had to be sentient in the first place. But then, like, the Ninja Turtle movie, the 1990 movie, has that with Splinter, where, like, he's already weirdly sentient before, and, like, I always give that movie that, I guess. So, like, I don't mean to be, like, contradictory or horribly inconsistent, but it's weird because it's the DC universe, right? Like
when you're like with a movie, you're more willing to give it that stuff, and then
yeah,
when you like a movie, if there's something like that that doesn't really make sense, you can just kind of go like, oh yeah, like that doesn't really make any sense,
yeah,
but
and
I
you
love this
and you
movie.
also go, and very often those are things that just, the movie wouldn't work without it, so it becomes a gimme, like we said. And
Yeah.
also the Splinter thing, that was from the comics, and that was a really strange choice that Eastman and Laird made in the first place.
Well, and also with the Splinter thing, you get that like really goofy looking little rat that's like,
Doing kung fu?
yeah, so you don't get that in this movie.
That's true. It's worth it.
No, it's worth it just for that image.
Yeah, there are other things it gives you
Yeah,
that make it worth
exactly.
it. Last call for questions or comments about this movie before we go ahead and put this review to bed. I think this is probably already far too long for this material. Any other particular plot points or specifics with this we haven't talked about that we probably ought to?
I'm trying to think like offhand.
Again, it's not sticking with me.
No, and I saw this movie what would have started about 4 hours ago, and it's already deleting even as we're talking about it.
Thomas Lowe, Lego Batman, better than this movie by leaps and bounds.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. Like I don't love the Lego Batman movie, but it's way better than this movie is.
And I mean, I like it quite a bit, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't dislike it. Like I think that movie's pretty good.
I put this, yeah, but I mean, like, I probably give it more credit than I ought to. Like, I really appreciate the movie, but I put this probably somewhere between something like that and like a Teen Titans Go to the Movies.
Which I've never seen. Yeah. I don't know exactly where I would put this, and I don't watch like a lot of like kids movies like this, where there's more questionable on whether it's gonna actually be a good movie or not.
Writer says the one video where a kid's perspective would be helpful, and Jason is sitting this one out. He didn't want to go. I tried to get him to go with me, and he wouldn't do it. He saw the same commercials I did.
Yeah, well, Jason's too old to be into this. Not that it would be bad if he liked this, but you know what I mean? Like it's going for kids younger than he is.
He would likely be in the same sort of camp that we are, I imagine. Mm-hmm. Not to speak for him, but like you're right, kid's perspective, but he's old enough. I would want to bring in somebody that was the audience this is for, and I don't have a kid articulate enough to bring much to an hour and a half conversation about it, if that makes any sense. Like my 4-year-old saw it, and I gave you his impression of it. He went he watched it and seemed to be enjoying it, and as we were leaving, I was kind of, and I don't always have to do this, sometimes he'll just start prattling on about a thing, but with this I was like, hey Mikey, what'd you think of this, what's your favorite part, that sort of thing, and he was just like, I like Superman, and like he didn't say a lot.
Yeah, no, because obviously every kid's different, but Jason's at that age where this kind of stuff starts to get a lot lamer, because you're starting to get stuff that you didn't have, when you were of the age that this was made for. You know what I mean? Like you've seen way better, and you kind of look at this and go like, yeah, that's for way younger kids than I am. Not to necessarily say he would have that reaction, but like I think a lot of kids around that age kind of start to have that.
We were talking earlier about the ways in which this can't decide who it's for, and I really like the point you made about how kids don't really know Superman or care that much about Superman anymore. And like I said, I think it's maybe a little unfair that the thing opens with the scene on Krypton, because I feel like it's kind of trying to tell the adults in the audience that like this material that they might want to actually pay attention to it, that there might be more there for them, especially like you said when they're doing the John Williams theme and all of that, and then you have jokes later, like we didn't even talk about this, like Dog L and all of that, which makes no sense at all. And
the Dog L thing is so weird and comes so late to the game that I was like, why did you even put this in outside of people who know that original movie? Like it's too specific of an image too.
Yeah, and we do the Jor-El that's a hologram or a computer voice in other things, but like they were doing specifically that one, and I know that voice. Who was that?
Oh, it's Keith David.
Oh yeah, okay. I was in the theater. He shows up twice, and the second time he was, I was like, this time I'm gonna get it, and like. I knew that voice. And that's, by the way, Keith David is a brilliant Jor-El choice. Can I just say that right now?
For Dog L?
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, like, if you ever cast him as Jor-El, that's a brilliant Jor-El choice. I've never thought of that. Like, if we ever do another, like, live-action Jor-El, I'd love a Keith David. Like,
no, the only reason I specified is
I guess you'd have to have a black Superman at that point, but like I like forgetting ethnicity or whatever, I just really like that casting choice.
The only reason I made that distinction was that I thought he's in one scene, but I thought Alfred Molina was pretty good as Jor-El.
Oh, was that Molina? I didn't catch that. That's cool.
No, there was a lot of like, oh, that's this person, that's that person. That's why when you said, who is it? It was like, oh, who was it? Because I'm like trying to remember each time I had that with a person's voice.
And also, in their defense, at least Keith David's a voice actor. Like, he's a live action actor too, but at least that wasn't like go for some celebrity cameo. Like, that is just a voice guy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Well,
cool.
and Keith David's just like a character actor. Like,
But
you know,
but the dog, but he's also like a voice guy.
no, no, for sure. But I mean, like, you could, yeah, like bring him in. It's not exactly like you're bringing in, like a Keanu Reeves or
Yeah.
even to a lesser degree,
I'm just
John.
trying to give them credit where at least that one wasn't gimmicky. That was just a good choice.
No, it was, yeah.
So here's why Dog L doesn't make any sense. And sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit. My initial point was just to what you were saying earlier. Why tug at my heartstrings when it's not like that? When it's not for me? Because the kids in the audience are not really going to appreciate the Superman stuff. But anyway. And I mean, like, those of us that have raised our kids on Superman, I guess those kids would, but I don't know how many of those there are. So the way that scene opens, and I like it fine. Crypto is there, and as the planet's falling apart, and you have your typical scene where they put Kal-El, the baby Kal-El, in the rocket, and the dome's coming down, and Kal-El and Crypto are looking at each other longingly, and they're sad they're never going to see each other again. And then the dog just runs in and jumps in, and the parents are like, okay, fine, I guess he can go too. So Crypto was never intended to go to Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So how does the Dog L thing happen? Like, Dog L didn't sit... Forget that he's named Dog L for a moment, okay? That's in the wrong movie, right? Like, Dog L is like a...
I'd forgotten the opening of this movie by the time you got to Dog L, so I wasn't thinking about that. But
it
I
feels
guess
like a Robot Chicken sketch, Dog L.
Yeah.
It's in the wrong movie.
A Family Guy joke, yeah.
That only works if Crypto either was sent separately, like Supergirl, which would have been fine. You could do that, and it would be kind of funny if they just have sentient dogs on Krypton, and separately this other dog. I don't know why he would also be called L, but you know what I mean. Like he sends, or if you make it the Superman thing where it's not Superman, you only have Crypto. And you could have done a Crypto. I meant to say this earlier. You could have done a Super Pets thing where it's pets instead of superheroes.
Yeah.
Why not for a kids movie?
When they first announced it, I assumed that's what it would be until we started getting casting choices for the actual heroes.
See, I knew it wouldn't because immediately they said Crypto the Superdog.
Yeah, but to me, like, just offhandedly, it's like, okay, like, Crypto's just the Superman in this. Like, as far as I know, just title, not seeing anything. Yeah. I could have walked into this movie thinking everyone was an animal in this movie. And then
I think they could have done Superman. That might have been cool.
Yeah.
But I also gotta say, why bother with a thing like this when you could just adapt Tiny Titans? And if you've never read Tiny Titans, do yourself a favor and go back and look at that material because it's really funny, and it's kind of like ongoing newspaper comic strips, and it's very much aimed at kids, but it has a bunch of deep pool references, and you can read that on a couple of levels sometimes. It's you'll wonder why you're reading it because it's clearly not for your age. I'm saying this to probably everybody here, but do it anyway because the art style's fun, and I don't know, I like those guys a lot. But anyway, is that Martin Baltar? I think is his name. I forget. It's been a long time since I've looked at that material. But anyway, they won an Eisner. That's the material we should be doing for kids. But anyway,
you gotta settle for this. Everybody loves pets. Everybody loves really unfunny jokes about what your pets do when you're not around.
I guess, yeah, that's very popular now.
You know what? I meant to say this earlier. It was the first thing I walked out thinking.
Yeah.
The audience for this movie is my mom, because my mom will watch this movie and be like, "Oh, like I like the jokes where it's the
Art Balthazar. There you go.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
my mom will watch this movie and be like, "Oh, like it's a fun superhero thing," and isn't it funny that like animals do things when you're not looking?
Well, I mean,
this movie is made for one person.
John Kelling, this is good. Says Dog L's name should have been Ken L.
Yeah, it's way better.
That's pretty good. Especially because the whole movie's about a dog shelter, or a pet shelter. But yeah, I still don't know why there'd be a pig there, and I still don't understand how Dog L even happens. It's just those kinds of careless things really took me out. In a movie where I was already going, here's more interesting things you could have been doing.
I'm surprised they didn't have the main villain's name rhyme with Zod's, so that when you get to the end where she says Neil before Lulu...
I had that thought.
It's really awkward.
And she says Neil 2 or 3 times in the movie. I'm like, you can't even pay this off.
Yeah. No, exactly. I can't think of a good pet name that rhymes with Zod, but it's there, I'm sure.
So, do you think when they do the mid credits and after credits with this that they think that they have any chance of getting more movies? Like, they're probably thinking they'll franchise this, right? Like,
no, they're absolutely thinking that they will franchise this.
Do you think that will happen? Because I don't.
No, I heard this movie's not doing very well.
I haven't even looked at the numbers, but this is
I haven't either. But somebody messaged me before we started and said that.
I'm wrong a lot, but I felt walking out of this movie like there was.
Here, I will look it up while we're talking. Like we can figure this out.
Well, I've got it up already, actually.
Oh, okay.
Right now,
Olivia Wilde played Lois Lane. Why? Sorry, I had.
Could have been anybody. She had 3 lines of dialogue. Yeah, it hasn't.
At least she had dialogue, unlike Zool, I guess.
It hasn't.
Or not Zool.
Zool?
I meant Gozer, yeah.
It hasn't passed 40 million yet.
Okay.
And it had a budget of 90.
That's not great.
I also don't understand why this movie cost $90 million to make. Well,
because everybody's a celebrity.
Yeah. Yep, that's why. This should have cost half that.
This is one of those movies that makes you wonder, like, how much of that budget went to paying animators and how much of it went to every single actor that's in this movie.
Yeah, and that's the sad state, yeah.
Especially since Keanu Reeves is the most expensive actor for Batman, like, of all time. Like, he's like the most well paid for a movie to play Batman.
Wait, really?
Yeah, that was a big thing that came out recently. I think Pattinson's the lowest and Keanu Reeves the highest.
How much did they pay him?
Yeah, let's see.
So you mean specifically for this project?
Specifically for this project, because he's only ever played Batman for this, right?
Well, yeah. But I mean, are you saying, like, the most... I'm not understanding you. Do you mean the most well-paid actor in general to play Batman, or do you
no,
the biggest
for
paycheck
the movie.
for this performance?
I think it was for the paycheck for the performance. Was my understanding.
That's insane. He didn't have to do anything.
Well, no, he got to talk about how much, how sad he was. Okay.
I mean, he's funny enough, I guess, but, like, good lord. Senior Sticks, cap questions to ask Dog L when you get to have. That's great. When I eventually do a rewind on this, I'll try to come up with that section. I'll do that. Well, one of them would be, why is there a pig there?
Yeah, that's a big one.
John Kelly, no actor stunt cast has ever sold an animated movie, period. I agree with that. It has ever made it, like make its money back. I'm sure people have gone to movies because an actor they knew was in it, but I don't think that ever... I can't think of an instance where it's like, this movie would not have done well if it hadn't been for this actor selling it. At least after the first weekend. I will say, if you didn't have Robin Williams in Aladdin, that movie doesn't do the money it did. But if that movie had been bad and had Robin Williams in it, it wouldn't have made the money it did. If that whole thing makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. I remember as a kid, there was just kind of an understanding of, every kid's animated movie has some sort of a celebrity to pay it. I can't find this article that I remember. Chat, like, am I being gaslit by myself? Like, I remember this being a big article that came out a few months ago, and now I'm struggling to find it. I have such a hard
time believing that. I mean, that's crazy.
I'm just gonna look up how much Keanu Reeves made for this. It's a
glorified cameo, dude. Well, my apologies, guys. Now we just gotta wait for Austin to find this information.
Yeah, sorry, everybody.
And then I'm going to ask you one more question, and we'll go ahead and put this comment or the podcast down. This review.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't find it. Anyways.
We'll find it at some point and mention it on another show. So you said before, and my apologies if you haven't gotten to do enough of this. You said before we started recording that you were kind of
Somebody says it's most paid in relation to screen time.
okay. There you go.
That makes more sense.
A lot more sense. Anyway, you said that this movie made you a lot more interested to just talk about the state of children's movies than the actual movie.
Yeah, because especially, looking at trailers all this year for kids' movies, it's just, like everything's crap. Everything's crap, and half of them look like fake movies to me. Like, it's like, oh.
Well, this had that.
Yeah. No, this had that. I have that with Lightyear. There's that like Paws of Fury movie that's in the theaters right now.
Yeah.
That also has it. There's one I saw in the trailer for today. It was some like Amazon movie. Not Amazon, like the company, like it took place in the Amazon.
Oh, okay.
And it looked like a weird Fern Gully movie. But I can't remember what it was called. I think that was a more independent one. I didn't see like a studio behind it.
I don't know. We've. I don't want to be naive because going all the way back to when I was a kid, there was a lot of cynical entertainment for children, obviously, and cynical animated stuff that was disposable, throwaway, did not care if like what it was saying to children or if there was anything there to stimulate them in any kind of way. And so I don't even want to say necessarily that we're doing it any more or less than we ever used to. It's just when I see it, it bothers me. That's
well, I
all.
think
like
my thing with it is that so you have like most of it's crap, and that tends to happen with everything anywhere. Like people will be like, "Oh, well, music was better back in this decade." No, it was crap, but we only remember the stuff that was good. Like if you were to go back to then, you would still have the like bad stuff that was big in the moment that's being played on the radio. But anyways, my thing with it is that there's a lot more just kind of bigger studios making more like crap. Like I don't think Pixar's really done anything good in a long time. Soul was an exception. I thought Soul was really good.
I like that too.
But like Turning Red, for example, I think sucks. Like it's like bottom tier for me. Like that was a 1-star movie.
I didn't bother with that.
movie.
I haven't seen Lightyear yet.
Yeah,
and I
it's
didn't
just...
have what you did with the trailers with that. I will still give that a chance.
I didn't. For Lightyear, sorry.
But
yeah.
I'm worried because, like, all my friends that have seen it are talking about it like it was super disappointing and that the wrong people made it. But I will still give that a shot at some point. When it comes
and the big thing too is I don't like Toy Story.
That's supposed to be on Disney Plus in like a couple of days, so I'll finally watch that here pretty soon. But
I think in like the next week or two.
I heard the 3rd, which would be 2 days from now.
Oh, okay. I was thinking somewhere between this week or like the 17th, but okay.
But I don't know if that's actually right. That's just what I heard. But anyway, what are you saying?
Well, and I don't like Toy Story 3 and 4, so
yeah.
For me, it's
I like 4 a lot, so you and I aren't really in the same place there, but that's whatever.
So it's like, a lot of the bigger stuff that people go, oh, like that's, that's the big, like gold standard of kids animation or, kids entertainment is also just kind of crap right now. So unfortunately, I don't think any of the big major studios are doing great stuff right now. Like Disney's just kind of bland in terms of their animation. Pixar, I think, is overall not very good. But we'll have like a Soul once every like 4 years.
I guess I was being sort of diplomatic when I said like I don't know if it's any better or worse than it ever used to be. Like, I just mean that we're so oversaturated with stuff that like the big Hollywood stuff, I'm not seeing a lot that seems like all that worth looking at, and the big companies that you used to trust for this have not been putting out their best work in the last at least decade. But I don't know what I'm not looking at. I don't know what's happening in streaming. I don't know what's happening on television all that much. Most of what my kids look at is either older stuff or the kind of like, innocuous, formulaic, what has taken over for what used to be Saturday morning cartoons when I was a kid, which is also a lot of stuff that they can get on streaming but is broadcast first. So like your I don't know, your Paw Patrol and your Blazing the Monster Machines and all that stuff, which they'll completely outgrow by the time they're 8.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. No, I don't think it's necessarily worse now. It's just the high bar's getting lower,
Yeah,
right? Like there used to be a certain level of quality that I think at least some of the major studios could hit, but I think that we're going below that most of the time now. And we rely on the name. Like I think Pixar has that really bad where Pixar still just remembered as what they were in their first decade.
and they're still coasting on that.
And they're still coasting on that where people go, "Oh, like Pixar, that's like a stamp of quality." Hasn't been in a long time.
And not everybody agrees with this, but arguably Marvel is currently having that problem some.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said,
It's a mixed bag with them.
mhm. Yeah, well, and that's kind of all it takes, especially when you have a big output. Your bar starts to go down more, and then you're making
But you feel like you can get
more.
away with putting out that much content and people will look at it because you've had consumer confidence for so long.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. Marvel's issue is just that they've not really had like a major failure for over a decade, so it's kind of like a cockiness.
One thing, Austin, I do think that we did when I was a kid a lot better is we knew how to put out at least some family films. And the 90s had the issue of there were too much like really crappy sappy family films and like that was
Mhm.
the name of the game, but we knew how to put out some good ones that were for kids but also adults simultaneously. And you just don't see very much of that anymore. And that's what Pixar did at its best, certainly. But like obviously the thing I always go to with this is in superhero is something like Batman the Animated Series. Like, where is that? You're we have a problem right now with obviously quantity over quality, but also with variety, where
Mhm.
it's like the best things coming out tend to be things you can't show your kids, and then
Yeah.
the stuff that your kids really love are things you don't want to sit through. Where's the stuff that makes it's so weird, right? Like I always complain about people about studios making movies that are supposed to be accessible, and I want uh, creators to just make stuff that they like and hope that there's a broad enough audience for it. But I guess I'm also complaining that there's not enough stuff that's really accessible anymore. Where is that stuff? Because usually really accessible stuff is still made in that vein. Where you just there happened to be some talented creators that knew how to make a thing that worked on different levels and that was for adults and kids simultaneously. Like, where is this generation's Roger Rabbit? We don't have that.
Well, it's it's your Space Jam 2s and your Chippendales,
Yeah,
which I
movies
haven't
that
seen, so I don't know
will
what
not
that's
be
like.
remembered 5 years from now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, in a way,
And it
uh,
also doesn't help that those are also nostalgic throwback things uh, that are hinging on name recognition and doing a thing a second time,
yeah,
and that's a problem just across the board where it's like, where's this generation Star Wars? Well, it's Star Wars because we're not trying beyond Guardians. We're not trying a lot of new IPs for anybody
mhm,
beyond a rated R audience. Like the new IPs are things that you can't show to a kid younger than 15.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
A lot of them.
What was I gonna say? Oh, yeah. So something like a Roger Rabbit is it. We talked about this the other day off camera about things that we really like that like ruined everything.
Oh yeah, I want to do that video. Things that
You
are
know,
simultaneously wonderful and screwed up genres and everything.
yeah, and I mean, it's not a direct impact, but it's a slow burn that's gotten worse. Like it's a snowballing effect, right? With Roger Rabbit, where Roger Rabbit, it's like, man, like, isn't it cool? We're getting to see Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck and like all these different cartoon characters in the same movie. but it's also a movie.
Yeah.
You know, like that's not the entire gimmick of it.
Tony Casaro, this generation's Roger Rabbit, is in White Castle.
He's just hanging out eating sliders.
AMC Comics, I love the 90s too, but I can see why people give aspects of that era a hard time nowadays. Oh, absolutely. I mean, there was a lot of crappy stuff that came out that decade.
Yeah, it's with everything. There's always really bad stuff that makes up the overall, but you know, you have like the stuff that shines out.
Yeah, well,
that's what gets remembered.
And I blame a lot of things that happened in the 90s for problems that we're experiencing now. So, I mean, there's no such thing as a perfect decade.
Well, and part of it is that you have the 90s, and then the 2000s are just like the DLC story pack of the 90s. So, like...
I feel that way, too. And I've never heard anybody articulate that quite that perfectly. That's exactly what the 2000s were like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're barely their own decade, I feel.
RJ Godzilla Avengers ruined movies. So did Hans Zimmer with his Begins and Dark Knight score, right? That's another one that I would consider putting in that list where like that's just what movies sounded like for a decade after that.
Have you seen the trailer for Nolan's new movie Oppenheimer?
No, I didn't realize that was out.
Yeah, so I went to see the new movie Nope, and they played that trailer, and it's like every Nolan trailer cliche formed together to make its own trailer.
Oh no. What did you think of Nope? I wanted to see that.
I did not like it, but I also don't like Jordan Peele. So
well, why'd you bother? Why'd you go?
Because I've only seen his first movie, so I went, like, can I really judge a person off of one movie? Like, that's unfair at the end of the day. So I went to go see it, even though I also didn't like him as a comedian. So there was a little bit more than that. But I also went, okay, I'm going to start doing more new movie reviews on my channel. So I'm going to go watch it, and then I'm going to review this movie. And then I watched it, I got home, and I spent 2 hours dealing with tech issues on my OBS, finally got it working. And then I have a 1-minute recording on my computer right now of me going, hey guys, I'm talking about Nope. I really don't want to do this. And then I hit end.
You should upload it. I liked Us a lot. That ending doesn't work, but I didn't care. I like that movie.
That's fair, and that's the one I haven't seen. I've only seen Get Out and Nope. So,
and I don't know if you would like that, but I don't know. It was fun, and I needed that right then. I guess I don't know.
Oh well, I mean, I'm in the minority of not liking Jordan Peele, so you don't have to justify yourself to me.
I know, but I just have a tendency. It's a habit.
Well, that was also part of why I didn't want to review it in the moment, because by that point it was like 4 a.m. I was like annoyed because of the tech issues I had, and then I went, I'm gonna have to spend like the first like 5 minutes of this justifying why I don't like this creator, and I don't want to have to do that.
Busted Sim and Tony Casero are both talking about how 9/11 had a lot to do with turning the 2000s into how you're describing it. I think that's absolutely right, of course.
9/11, that reminds me of that tragedy.
But anyway, so our Super Pets video it did end up getting close to 2 hours, but in my defense, we have not really been reviewing that movie for the last half hour.
Yeah, no, we've just been talking about random stuff. We also started talking about just our pets. So...
That's true. We did open with that, yeah. Oh, the word I was looking for at the beginning that I just could not get out of my brain was dignified. Apollo, my dog, would look very dignified on camera. I should put him on camera at some point.
Well, do your dogs, because they don't come down to the basement, are they like weird around steps? Like you like don't have them go like up or down stairs so they won't do it?
No, they totally would. I have one dog who's really clumsy, and I don't want her down here because she'll bump into things and knock them over. And she is ostensibly housebroken, but she still will occasionally make messes places, and I just can't have that down here.
No, for sure. I just wonder because like I know a lot of people that have that where they train their dogs not to go up or downstairs. So you'll be walking and they'll be walking side by side, and you'll start going up or down, and they'll just kind of stop and go, "Oh, I don't know about this. I can't
Okay,
do
I didn't
that.
know what you meant by weird around stairs. Like, yeah, we have trained them not to go up or down stairs just because we don't want them in those places in the
Yeah.
house, I
No,
guess.
of course. Yeah.
But and I've considered that with Apollo, like bringing him like on like a late night because I have a bed down here and on sometimes on real late nights where I don't want to bother my wife, I'll just sleep down here. And I thought about having him come down and just sleep in bed with me before, and then I'm like, I don't know if I want to like set a precedent of the dogs coming down here. But this is not interesting to anybody.
Yeah.
I don't know why we're talking about this right now.
Now we're just gonna spend 40 minutes just talking about
Dogs.
Drago.
So real quick with Ace the Bat Hound, a little bit weird, of course, to have a boxer as Ace the Bat Hound. I guess it has to be like a diminutive, kind of goofier looking dog because of who's voicing him, and that's why they went that way. But they made an okay case for it once he puts on his costume at the end, and they light it and make him look kind of dark. Like, but it's weird to imagine Batman running around with a boxer.
See, I wasn't even with animated stuff. I never think about dog breeds or like just animal breeds in general for that kind of a thing. So I just kind of went like, oh yeah, he's like this looking dog.
Well, I
But yeah,
only thought about it because I'm used to what Ace the Bat Hound usually looks like, and there's a couple of I think different breeds we've done with him.
yeah, it's not your typical Ace look.
Well, he's usually tall and large and looks like he could, fight someone because he's a superhero dog. I think originally he was a German Shepherd
Yeah, that's I think what he typically looks like.
in the early comics, and then in Batman Beyond, which is objectively the best version of Ace, he is a Great Dane.
hmm Yeah, which I guess is like a go-to for Scooby-Doo as well. Is Great Dane. Have I ever talked on camera about how stupid dog breeds are?
No. I'm, by the way, really bad at dog breeds. Like, I can't,
Yeah.
I cannot remember them until the difference a lot at all, and I'm shocked that I just remembered what I just remembered. But anyway,
So dog breeds are stupid because scientists come in and they go, "Oh, crocodiles, alligators, whatever. These are very clearly different animals. Like the third tooth is different." And then they look at chihuahuas and huskies and they go, "Ah, that's a dog.
that's a dog, man.
That's a dog, man."
Well, I mean, do you feel the same way about cats?
I don't know. Cats are stupid in general. So
I like cats. I was always more of a cat person, and my wife was always more of a dog person. And I didn't grow up with pets besides like 1 year of my life where we lived with an older lady like in her house, and she had a cat. That was the only time I ever had a cat. But from that, I developed into more of a cat person. And so, like, if I ever had pets, I wanted a cat. But then I had a cat allergy, and I couldn't have cats. And so my wife wanted dogs, and we finally eventually got a Chihuahua mix. And then a couple years later, we got another Chihuahua mix. Never thought we'd have that kind of dog, but we ended up loving it. We always wanted small dogs. And so I went from tolerating dogs to liking them a lot more. And then finally, somehow I kicked that allergy, and now I also have a cat. And when we moved into this house, my wife, basically for Christmas that year, took me out and got me a cat. And she doesn't care for cats, so it was super cool that she did that.
no, that's awesome.
Yes, I'm able to have my cake and eat it too. So I have a cat named Oracle.
You have your cat and you eat it too.
No, I don't. and then we have Artemis and who's the clumsy dog that we have, and then we have Apollo, who's the more dignified of the two.
See, I think cats for their breeds are less stupid because all look like cats, just different colored. But dogs are like wildly different looking creatures.
There's wildly different looking cats.
I guess. I don't know. I don't know enough about cats. To me, cats just all look like cats.
Well, at the point that we've degenerated to that statement, I think we should probably end off the video. Everybody, thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed our insane 2-hour live discussion about Super Pets and also the state of cartoons or cartoon movies for kids at large. There's whole points I wanted to make about that I decided not to bother with. We should maybe make a video about that at some point. And also just us and our pets. How many dogs do you have?
So I have one. I have a black lab. Black lab King Shepherd mix, and then
I always kind of wanted a black lab, but I don't want a dog that big.
yeah, no, that's understandable. If I were to ever get another dog, I'd probably get a black lab. Because that's like the issue that I'm having to deal with now is that my dog's 15
Oh wow.
in February, so I'm getting to that point where I'm like, okay, I have to get to that place soon because it's not going to be around forever.
Yeah,
It sucks.
I'm not looking forward to that when I get there with Apollo.
Mm-hmm. It's the thing
I've
that
got a
sucks
good
about
ways to
having
go.
pets,
He's
man.
7 right now, I think.
Mm-hmm. No, of course, but I know it's the thing that sucks about having pets.
You just wish they'd live longer.
Mm-hmm. No, they're awesome, and then it's like, oh, you don't get to keep them forever.
John Kellencap, you can't have your cat and eat it too. I'm not doing that.
That is true. If you eat your cat, you won't have it anymore. Cat.
It's not even possible. Okay, we're gonna get going. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. We're gonna get back to regular business on the channel this month. I say regular, basically, we are doing kind of a themed month, and it's going to be insane for Austin and I. We're gonna do as much as we can get away with, but August is request month this year, and we're going to try to knock out at least a couple of requests a week, plus a requested superhero rewind or some sort of rewind at least 3 if not 4 Sundays if I can get away with it. That's the plan. It's ambitious, it's crazy, and I don't know how much we'll be able to do, but we're going to try it. So tomorrow night we're going to be doing our regular The Request show, and we're going to be covering the first 2 episodes of Invincible from Amazon. Speaking of animation that you can't show your children. And then Friday this week, I think we landed on doing the first couple of volumes of Star Wars Legacy. So we'll switch to comics for Friday. And then Sunday, if all goes according to plan, I'm going to also, by request, be reviewing The Lone Ranger for Superhero Rewind. I don't know how I'm going to work in a movie that long and boring that will make me want to fall asleep while doing all the rest of what we're doing this week, but that's what I'm going to attempt to do, and the Captain Logan show comes back on Thursday, so look forward to all of that if we can make it all work out, and we sure appreciate everybody's support, and thanks for watching. You guys are wonderful, and hope you had fun with the weirdness that was us talking about this movie for this long.
Yeah. I told you we'd end up doing it. We made it. We got into bed. We're longer than the movie.
Oh man. Well, any final thoughts, Austin?
This movie is also overly long. This movie did not need to be an hour 45.
I had that too. Yep. So we thought we would recreate that experience for you.
Yeah, exactly. We added lots of padding.
Busted Sim says this was weird.
You are correct.
Thanks a lot for watching. Really appreciate you guys. I was Captain Logan, and this was Austin, the Day Ghost.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.